Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wolfpacker Show. I'm here with Noah Fleischman, as I am every week, and we're here for another basketball update. And we're entering the home stretch here. Just a handful of regular season games to go for both men's and women's basketball at NC State. So we're going to talk about what's there to look forward to for both teams over the next few weeks, and then we're also going to dive into what is going to be one of the most anticipated spring football practices of maybe program history. There's a lot to talk about, a lot of questions to answer, and a lot of excitement around the program. So we're going to touch on that, give you a little preview because we're only less than 2 weeks away from spring practice kicking off. So we're going to talk all about that. Before we do so, just a quick housekeeping note. We're both writers for the Wolfpacker.com. That is NC State's site on the On3 network. It's the fastest growing college sports recruiting analysis website out there right now. If you want to go check it out, it's the Wolfpacker.com, and it is only $1 to subscribe for all of On3's premium features and the features over at our site. So that's access to our message board, premium recruiting scoops, team analysis from Noah on the men's basketball team, what's going on there, and we got baseball season coming up, and Noah's getting us prepped with a long preview by position right now. So go check all of that out on the website. It's a good time to join. Only $1 for your first month. And go check us out there. We appreciate your business. All right, Noah, let's dive in. We're going to lead off today with some basketball talk. And, it's been another tough stretch for NC State's men's basketball. Since we last spoke, NC State went 0-2. They lost at home to Pittsburgh before going on the road and falling against Wake Forest. Those two losses came by a combined 7 points to hard-fought games that the Wolfpack came up just short in the final moments. Noah, we can start by just touching on the Pittsburgh game really quickly. Obviously, that was kind of back-breaking result there. Now that we're a week removed from it, do you have any kind of extended takeaways from that 67-64 loss?
I mean, they did most things well in that game except shoot free throws well, and that's what ended up costing them when they went 6 of 15 from the free throw line. Pitt went 18 of 20, and in a 3-point game, there's your difference in the result. So, other than that, they played decently well on every other facet of the game. They made more threes than Pitt did, and Pitt is one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country. And they basically, look at the stat sheet, they did almost everything else better than Pitt. So that one came down to free throw shooting, and it didn't show up that way. And Kevin Keats sounded like a broken record after that game, and had it circled on his stat sheet that he had at the podium. It was all about free throw shooting, and did not go their way. So it was what it was. It was not a game that they wanted to lose, not a game they really should have lost, and not a game that they could have lost when it comes down to the NCAA tournament, which we'll talk about. But yeah, at the end of the day, it wasn't their worst showing. It just ended up, one fundamental thing of basketball didn't go their way, and ended up hurting them pretty bad.
And you were in Winston-Salem a few days later to cover the away game at Wake Forest. It looked like it was going to be just a perfect opportunity to generate some positive momentum with a quad one road win. I mean, they go into halftime up 6. I thought the offensive execution in the first half was maybe the best I've seen against an ACC team this year. I thought they were really just playing definitely their best performance on the road, I'd say. But I thought they looked great, dropping 45 in the first half. And then in the second half, DJ Horn just went nuclear, ends up finishing the game with 31 points. I mean, it looked like everything was going to come together in that game. But of course, things fell a bit short. Noah, in your mind, from being there by the court, talking to folks after the game, what went wrong down the stretch against Wake Forest that swung that result back towards the Demon Deacons?
It really had to do with who was taking shots. I mean, DJ Horn, he scored 31. He did it fairly efficiently. 13 of 21 for the field, which is most made buckets of the year, and I think his most attempted shots. So they found the hot hand to let it go, but the part that cost them in that game was they didn't score for the final, 2 minutes of the game, and Wake Forest able to put it away. But also, you look at the backcourt other than DJ Horn. Jaden Taylor was 3-15 from the field, and Keith Morsell was 3 of 8. Dennis Parker Jr. off the bench 1 for 2, which is pretty fairly well. And then Michael O'Connell Had one attempt, one make. He dealt with foul trouble for most of the day, so he didn't see much of the court. 11 minutes and 4 fouls. So it really came down to guys other than the guards not named DJ Horn making shots. Jaden Taylor, as I said, 3 of 15 from the field, 1 of 8 from 3. Did have 5 assists in the game, but 1 of 8 from 3, 3 of 15. If he just makes 2 field goals, 2 of those 12 that he missed, they win the game. And so I think that's what it comes down to. Other guys getting going. Kevin Keats just talked about it this week of finding other players that he can get going, because DJ Horn is playing at another level. Past 4 games, 20 or more points. His first time in his career where he's had this kind of stretch at the college level, which is a good thing to see, him kind of making that step and becoming the scorer. But it comes down to the guys around him making shots too. You can look at DJ Burns, played a pretty decent game, 14 points on 6 of 13 shooting. So, I mean, he filled the bucket. Did miss some shots he would normally make, but it really came down to guard play other than DJ Horn.
Yeah, I think DJ Burns has actually been pretty solid over the past stretch. I think he's given the Pack what they need right now. I just feel like they need just two of the 3 guards right now to be on to win. I think you need like DJ Horn's been the constant, right? Like he's going to give you 20 points a night at this point. He's playing that high level of offensive basketball. But I think you just need one of Jaden Taylor or Casey Morsell to step up on any given night. And if those 2 guys are hot at the same time, then I think you have a good chance to beat some really good teams in the ACC. Because it's worth stating, like Wake Forest is a good team in the ACC. I think they should be a tournament team without a doubt. So we'll see if they can kind of rally down the stretch here. If that wasn't a must-win game, that Wake Forest game, which as far as their tournament chances, I think it probably was. This week's game against Clemson certainly is. They get a few days off. There's no weekday game. Then they travel to Clemson for a 7:45 tip-off on a Saturday, some primetime basketball action. No, am I being hyperbolic here? But it feels like they absolutely have to win this game.
If they want an NCAA at-large bid, they do. I mean, when you look at what they've done this year, they don't have any bad losses, which helps their cause, but they also don't have any great wins. It's kind of a weird thing. They beat the teams they're supposed to beat, and they lose the games that maybe it's a toss-up or the underdog. They don't hurt. None of their losses have been back-breaking, losses to a really bad team, which is a good thing when you look at NC State. Mm-hmm. But they need a win. And last week, going into this 2-game stretch on the road, was at least they need to split to kind of keep their hopes alive. 2 wins would have done them a lot of good. But a split kind of is going to be it. Because when you look at what they have down the stretch, after this, they have fairly winnable games against Syracuse and Boston College at home. Should be able to take care of business at PNC in those 2 games. Then it gets tough again with, you look at, they go down to Florida State, who is net isn't good, but they're playing really, really good. And then Duke, Carolina, and Pitt to round things out. So this one's a must-win game, I think. And when you really look at their at-large chances, can only see them losing 1 more game down the stretch, and you can take your pick of Duke or Carolina. You could afford to lose one of those games, but you got to win everything else in between. And if that doesn't happen, then the state's going to need a run in the ACC tournament and probably a title to get into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I think their hopes are starting to dwindle pretty fast here. I think it would have to be a lights-out stretch of basketball to make the big dance at this point. And, that starts against Clemson, who, we can do predictions for that game real quick, Noah, but you look at it, and this is a team that's had NC State's number, like 6 straight losses to the Tigers, dating back to, I believe, 2021. So it's a team that, they've had a lot of success against NC State. I'm not going to predict this one as a win. I think Clemson's, history against NC State will continue. I think they kind of have NC State's number, and I think they're playing, decent basketball right now as well. But Noah, do you have a different take on how that game will play out against the Tigers?
I think if they shoot the ball well and they get multiple guards to show up, I think it gives them a chance. It's really going to be determined in the front court and what they do with PJ Hall and Ian Schifflin. Those two forwards are playing really good basketball. PJ Hall is obviously the star of Clemson basketball. And you look at the Tigers; they're playing well. 2 back-to-back wins. They play
Yep.
against Miami on Valentine's Day, but they played and beat Carolina at Carolina for the second time in 62 games there.
Yeah.
And then they beat Syracuse, and those are both teams that NC State has lost to. So it'll be interesting. I don't know if Pack has enough to be able to do enough, if that makes sense, and be able to come out on top. It's going to be a tough environment to play in Saturday night in Clemson. It's going to be a good crowd probably on hand, and ESPN gives NC State, just under 20% chance of winning the game. That's kind of where it sits. I don't think that NC State will have enough to deal with both forwards, Ian Schifflin and PJ Hall in this one. Ben Motorbrooks knows from experience. He played against them, especially PJ Hall backing him up. But it's gonna be a group effort, I think, on the front court. It's gonna have to be a mix of Ben Motorbrooks and Mohamed Diarra probably on PJ Hall. He's too athletic, I think, for DJ Burns to run with for the entire game. So
Yeah.
It'll be interesting, but I don't think this one goes State's way. And if that's the case, then we're really going to see what this team is made of. Not only just on the court, but I think off the court, because it could snowball really, really fast. And coming home next week, you obviously don't want to see that happen. So we'll see what happens. But I think Clemson's able to take care of business at home against the Wolfpack. But we'll see. If NC State plays a perfect game, could change.
And I think they have a little more margin for error against Clemson than they did last year, just because, if you remember last year, those games were not close to end the season. The one in Greensboro and the one in Raleigh, both decided by at least 25 points. And a big part of that is they didn't really have anyone who could guard PJ Hall. He was a really tough matchup. But now you have Mo and Ben Middlebrooks, who I think are actually pretty good matchups against them. Athletic fours who can face off against and of course Ben's case, his former teammate.
So, he's done it before.
Yeah. So I think they'll be better equipped there, but Clemson's also a good defensive team, and I think they might be able to slow down the Pack's backcourt a little bit, and that's why we have a little cause for concern down the stretch for that game. But let's switch gears, Noah. Let's talk about a little bit of Wolfpack women's basketball. Why don't we? So since we last talked, they've played 2 games. One was a loss to Virginia Tech, and one was a blowout win over Pittsburgh. Let's talk about the Virginia Tech game first. It felt like, the matchup between 2 of the best teams in the ACC. There was no doubt in my mind that these are 2 of the top groups, if the top group in the ACC right now. So you have you went into this game and you looking at last year's result where, Georgia Amore just kind of went nuts against the Pack, right, at Reynolds. This year, I thought they did a good job guarding her, and then things kind of unraveled when it came to guarding Liz Kitley underneath the basket and just rebounding as a whole. Rebounding and moving the ball just did not go well for the Pack. They lost the rebounding battle by 17 and turned the ball. And, it was just a tough game for the Pack. Noah, you were there with me in Reynolds. We covered that one together. Electric atmosphere. Shout out to all the fans that were there. It was a really fun game to cover. But any takeaways you had from where the Pack might have struggled and why, they lost for the first time at home in almost a year?
It's the same opponent too that last beat them there. So, I'm sure that's not what the Wolfpack wanted. But yeah, rebounding, I guess you touched on it. That was the biggest problem that they had, being out rebounded 48-31. Not a great advantage, especially in a 9-point game or an 11-point game. Math is hard to do, but it was closer than 11 points for a lot of the game, and NC State just did not have enough. And the rebounding is really what it came down to. Obviously, Liz Kitley is going to score her points. It is what it is. She's going to get 25 fairly easily, so she got against the Wolfpack this time around. NC State, it also went cold for a little while. Mimi Collins 0 for 9 from the field didn't help, and I think that's kind of the biggest difference when you look at anything other than rebounding is their forward's going to get going. You're going to have one of your players get going too. And when one of your better scorers goes 0 for 9 from the field, that kind of tells the story. Yeah,
and, a big part of that was they started the game on fire offensively, right? They went in a 19-point first quarter, helped keep pace with Virginia Tech, who also started the game well. And then they came out, and then Virginia Tech threw out the zone. And NC State has played well against the zone for big parts of this season. Like, seeing a zone was not a new thing for the Wolfpack, but they couldn't crack Virginia Tech's look out there, and it showed. I mean, they had 4 assists the entire game. Isaiah James and Sanaya Rivers both had 2. No one else on the team recorded an assist. That's not going to win you many ball games. Definitely not many against top 15 teams in the race for an ACC title. So it just wasn't the Pack's best defensive performance. I thought they did an okay job defending Virginia Tech, especially pretty much every quarter other than the third quarter. They gave up 20 in the third, got outscored by 9, and that's when things kind of pulled ahead. But Virginia Tech shot the lights out, and NC State didn't, which is one of those games that they happen to most teams. They don't happen often at NC State because they've been playing so well this season, but they bounced back. They were able to rally and bounce back very, very quickly against Pittsburgh, blew them out, and left very little room for doubt in that game. But the only major talking point from that 83-47 win would be that, sorry, I'm trying to open up stats and it keeps auto playing ads. I don't know if that comes across the podcast feed, but they dominated Pittsburgh, and the only negative was that Mimi Collins left the game a couple minutes into the third quarter with what looked like a knee injury. We haven't gotten an update on her. After the game, Westmore told WKNC that they're going to have to, do imaging, see what the severity of it was. But I have followed up for comment like this week, and haven't heard it. They're not going to share an update until we get closer to the Notre Dame game, because why would they share anything? That would give Notre Dame a competitive advantage there. But Pittsburgh game was great. The injury concerns, not so great. No, I want to get your opinion on this as well. But if Mimi misses any extended time, I think you have to completely recalibrate your expectations for this season. I mean, she's been amazing this year. Right now, she's averaging 11.5 and 6.4 rebounds per game. So one of your top scorers, one of your top players on the board. And I feel like, we'll talk about the Notre Dame matchup in a bit, but she's the exact player you want against a team like Notre Dame that has a stretch 4, because she can guard out on the perimeter too. But Noah, if you have any thoughts on the Notre Dame game, on the Pittsburgh game, and then say Mimi Collins misses a couple weeks here, how does that kind of adjust your expectations for how February is going to finish up here for the Pack?
It makes it interesting because, she, as you said, is one of their better players. She's having a career year, with 11.5, 6.4 boards, both are the, career best. And she's been playing really, really well. And, she helped them get through without River Baldwin, playing the 5. Yeah. She's a really versatile player. She can play all over the court, which I think is really, something that could hurt them the most. And then the second part is what do they do if she's hurt and can't play? Most likely, they're going to start Zoe Brooks and just move people around and play Madison Hayes and the 4 and just kind of slide everybody down 1. And that might work. But if you find a team that's going to play 2 bigs, then they're going to be, a little bit in trouble and have to play a freshman, either, like a Mallory Collier or, go somewhere that way. And that could be interesting too. So I don't know. It's going to be, I think it's one that hurts more than I think River Baldwin getting hurt is, because she did so much for this team, and whether it was scoring, offense, defense, and you either replace her with Maddie Cox or Mallory Collier. So I think that takes a hit. So if it's something that's short term, she misses a week or so, I think they'll be okay. But if this is one that they go down to Greensboro without her, then it could be a problem, down the stretch, and we'll see what happens. And you don't want to say it could cost them a 1 seed, but if she's out for a month, it might. And we'll see what happens.
It definitely could. And that's a good segue into talk about teams playing 2 bigs. Notre Dame is going to do that, and they'll be in Notre Dame Thursday night for a 6 p.m. tip-off on the ACC network. Notre Dame's going to play two bigs, and their power forward, Maddie Westbeld, is someone who's given the Pack problems in the past. She can get out behind the 3-point line and shoot it, score inside. She's a really, really good player. And, Mimi Collins is the perfect player to guard her. Like, she is more than capable of closing out, defending the three, but is a tough player in the paint as well and would be able to, I think, be an ideal matchup. And, we don't know her status, but if Mimi misses this game, then that matchup becomes a lot tougher, because suddenly you're playing either Madison Hayes, who's really good defender, really good rebounder. There's a reason why they feel comfortable playing her at power forward. She's also 6 foot. So she's 3 inches shorter than Westbeld is. So we'll see how that goes. Or you could put Maddie Cox out there, the true freshman, who's 6'2", and has played good minutes at points this season, and see if she's ready to take on a bigger role. But yeah, Coach Moore said it after the game against Pittsburgh. People are gonna have to step up. So this is a really talented team. There's a lot of talent on this roster. So it's just a question of who we're going to see step up, and can they not replace the production, but at least lessen the blow of Mimi Collins' injury. And we'll see how severe that ends up being. Because of the uncertainty around that game, Noah, I'm leaning towards predicting that game against Notre Dame as a loss. I think it's going to be a tough one. You're going to have to stop Hannah Hidalgo, Notre Dame's star freshman point guards, averaging over 25 points per game, over 5 steals per game. Both lead the ACC. I think they have the guards, and between Isaiah and Sanaya, to slow her down. I think it'll be a similar game plan to what they did against Georgia Amore of Virginia Tech. I think but then, they still have Citron as another really, really talented guard over at Notre Dame, and they've got a lot of really talented players. So since it's a road game, first game without Mimi Collins, it kind of has similar shades to me as the first Virginia Tech game. And I think I'm leaning towards a close loss there. Noah, what's your gut going into that game?
I think it's similar. I think if they can control Hannah Hidalgo, I think it gives them a chance even without Mimi Collins on the floor. But then again, Hidalgo does a lot other than score the basketball. She's a really good scorer, but she's an elite defender. You talk about two of the best guards that can defend in the ACC, maybe even the country. It's going to be a cool matchup with her and Sanaya Rivers, so that'll be fun to watch. But otherwise, I just feel like Notre Dame might just have the upper hand if Mimi Collins can't go. But if she comes out of nowhere and can give them some minutes on the court, then, it gives me a chance to lean toward NC State. But I think you're right. I think a tight loss on the road is probably what the Wolfpack might see. And it's not the end of the world. Notre Dame's a really good team. I don't think that this would, cause the sky to fall in Raleigh. But it would be great to get a win on the road at Notre Dame, but if it doesn't go their way, then it is what it is. They come home and try to reset.
Yeah, even if you lose this one on the road, like you're the number 6 team in the country. Even if you lose it, you're probably staying in the top 10 if you respond with a win against Georgia Tech over the weekend. And you're still in play for the 1 seed. At that point, your chances at the ACC regular season title are probably out the window if you lose another one. I think the Pack would probably have to run the table or get close to that down the stretch here. But other than that, your goals will be in front of you. And shoot, it's not like we're sitting here ruling out that they'll go to South Bend and win tomorrow. I wouldn't be shocked by any means if that happened. So there you go. Those are our basketball predictions for the week. We're going to turn our attention to football and a little bit of baseball talk too to wrap up the show. But before we do that, I just want to say a quick thank you to our sponsor, Game Time. Game Time is a ticket buying and selling marketplace. Whether you're looking for tickets to, the next women's basketball game, looking for tickets to go see a Canes game, a comedy show, a concert, whatever you're looking for, Game Time has it. And they have great deals for last-minute tickets. That's what it's my go-to for last-minute ticket buying, especially because if I'm sitting on the couch on a Thursday and I have nothing to do and the Hurricanes tickets are cheap, shoot, why not? I'll go see the Canes this weekend. So if you go and check it out right now, you can go and look on the Game Time app or go to your browser and type in gametime.co, not .com.co, and then you go check it out. And you can see exactly the view you would be sitting from before you buy the ticket. It's my favorite thing about the app by far. I'll hold it up for those watching on YouTube. But you can see, you were sitting in row N in section 309. You'd be able to tell right where you would be. So it's pretty cool. I really like it. You can go to the Blackhawks at Hurricanes game on next Monday for $39. And not only that, Noah, I will sweeten the deal even more for you. Because if you go onto the Game Time app and use code Wolfpack, that's all caps Wolfpack, you'll get $20 off your first purchase. So that's you're going to the Hurricanes game for basically like if you went to the movies and got a bottle of water and a large popcorn. So go check it out. Game Time app or gametime.co on your web browser. And $20 off if you use all caps code Wolfpack. All right, Noah. Our first few months together covering this beat were spent all on the football team, and I feel like we took one prolonged deep breath after the bowl game. We took a break. We gave some big picture thoughts, but we kind of switched gears, and now it's time to start ramping up again because there is really no true offseason in college football anymore, and spring practice is just a couple weeks away. And I wanted to talk about it. So we're going to talk about a little bit of what we're going to be looking out for. A couple quick news and notes as far as football goes. NFL Combine invites came out. So Peyton Wilson and Dylan McMahon, the former Wolfpack captains, they'll both be at the NFL Combine. And then Joe Shimko, longtime long snapper, will be at the Specialist Showcase. So good opportunity for them to get in front of all these NFL scouts, take another step towards their dream. But what I wanted to do is, and for those who are, also subscribers to the site, I encourage you to go look. But we published a story earlier this year with our biggest questions surrounding the team going into spring practice. And Noah, what I want to do is I want us to each take one of the 6 questions that we asked and answered in that story. And let's break it down on the pod. Let's talk through why it's a big question mark, and then try to answer it to the extent that we can, right? At this point, it's a lot of speculation. We have a little bit of intel to back it up that we'll share with y'all. But let's each pick one question that we think NC State really needs to answer during its 15 spring practices over the course of February, March, and April here. Noah, do you want to go ahead and go for your question?
Yeah, I'll take one. And I answer this on there. Does NC State need a 4th quarterback? It's a big question. They've got 3 scholarship quarterbacks on the roster. Do they need a 4th? And here's the reason why. You bring in Grayson McCall, obviously, the likely starter out of camp. He's the only guy that's taken college start or made a college start in the room. So he'll obviously be there. And then they've got 2 young guys behind him and Lex Thomas, who redshirted this past season, and then Cedric Bailey, who's on campus right now as a true freshman. The question is, do they need an experienced backup? And Dave Dorn talked about it on signing day a little bit, and he basically said, well, wait and see. If they're comfortable with what they have, they'll ride with it. If not, they'll go and see what's out there. They did kind of explore a little bit what's out there with Ryan Berger from App State, but didn't go anywhere with him, and he ended up, committing to a different school. So we'll see what happens. But I think that question, going into spring practice is one that we don't really know an answer to.
Yeah.
I think we could err on the side of maybe like it all comes down to what these 2 young quarterbacks look like in camp. If they look really good, I wouldn't expect the Wolfpack to do anything. But if there's a chance that they're shaky or they're just not comfortable with rolling with them, then we could see maybe like a sophomore or junior from the portal get brought in just to be that backup. Maybe it's an FCS transfer. Maybe it's a Group of 5 transfer. Someone to come in and be a solid backup in the event they need to go to.
Yeah, to kind of set the expectations for that one, like I think it would be much more closer to like a Jack Chambers type of quarterback, like you said, an FCS transfer who comes in for his last season of eligibility, maybe just wants a shot at Power 5 football, and provides that valuable veteran voice. I don't think they're going to be able to go do like what Oregon did and get Dante Moore, to sit for a year behind Dylan Gabriel. That's definitely an anomaly there. But I think, it's not the spring portal window. It's not quite what the winter portal window is, but it'll be busy. And there will be names out there that I think they'll be able to go get someone if they feel the need arises. I will say, if they don't, then I don't think Wolfpack fans have to be worried. I think they should be encouraged. After how the 2022 season went with 4 different quarterbacks starting games, this staff is well aware of how important the backup quarterback position is. So they're going to be evaluating it very closely throughout the spring. Like that's not a concern. If they don't bring in another quarterback, that's honestly great news, because that means Lex Thomas or Cedric Bailey has shown that they're ready to handle that responsibility right off the bat, in my opinion. And, who knows? We haven't gotten to see much of Lex Thomas, but it was productive passer in high school. And then Cedric Bailey was, putting up monster numbers. That I think Max Preps had his high school Chaminade Madonna as the number 2 program in the country, the state champion and all of that, and an early enrollee. So there's talent in the quarterback room. It's just, we'll see if anyone steps up. And you're right, that's not a question we can answer right now, because it's going to rely a lot on what we see out of spring practice. All right. I'm going to adapt one of the questions I asked. We went in depth and talked about the linebacker rotation in the story. What's it going to look like? I want to kind of focus it a little bit on just how the heck, Noah, do you replace Peyton Wilson? I mean, you're asking NC State this season to replace one of the most impactful defensive players I've ever seen. Like at any level, just he impacted every single play, it seemed like, defensively. And, you're losing that presence, and it's a big presence. It's a leadership presence on and off the field. You're going to have to fill a void. Noah, what is the linebacker room going to look like this year? Because then, in addition to Peyton Wilson, you're also losing Jalen Scott, who was, I'd say, the second best linebacker in the room last year.
Yeah, they got to replace 2 linebackers, and that's hard to do. And it's hard to do no matter who the 2 linebackers are. You lose 2 starting linebackers, that is what it is, right? But then you look at it and go, wait, one of them is one of the best linebackers ever come through the program. Mm-hmm. And I think that just changes it up a little bit. But when you look at who they have, you can feel pretty good. Caden Fordham and Devon Betty, obviously the 2 guys that probably slot into the top 2 spots in the linebacker room just as a whole. If you take all the linebackers, put them together, they're probably going to start. It's about filling that 3rd spot. There's some choices. They can go the freshman route. They've got 2 guys that redshirted this past season, in Kelvin McBride and Kamal Bonner. Go the JUCO route. They brought in a linebacker, Wyatt Wright. Or go the 3rd route. And the guy impressed against Clemson when he needed to be put at the linebacker spot because Peyton Wilson got hurt. And that's Sean Brown, a safety who impressed in his one drive at linebacker. He had, I think 6 or 7 tackles on one drive. He was all over the field. So I don't know what they do. There's a lot of options. Obviously, I think Caden Fordham and Devon Betty are obviously probably the sure locks to start. Yeah. But that 3rd spot's got a competition. Wyatt Wright is an intriguing guy that can play there, and I think will play no matter what happens. I think he'll get that rotational spot, if anything. But the starting spot, we'll see what happens.
It's a lot of unknowns, and it's not for a lack of talent, right? Like you mentioned, the 2 redshirt freshmen, Kelvon McBride and Kamal Bonner. Those guys are 2 players who, unprompted throughout the fall, just garnered huge praise by the staff. They came in and really impressed as true freshmen. And it was such an experienced room that, of course, they didn't see much game action. But the talent's there. I really liked both of them out of high school. They both played kind of safety roles almost for a while at their high school team, for their high school programs. Kelvon was a 3-star receiver for a little while. So they're athletic, fast players who have now had more than, or in Kelvon's case, a little less than a year because he enrolled in the summer. But Kamal's been here since last January. So they've had time in a college program to bulk up, learn the 3-3-5 system, which asks a lot out of the linebackers. And so I'm very interested to see if one or both of them can step up into at least a rotational role. I think it'd be very great to see them do that because I think it's going to be a little more linebacker by committee than we've seen last year, especially. And yeah, you mentioned Wyatt. I think he's great. I think he's a really, really good player. Hard-hitting guy, put up big numbers at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. Sort of an under-the-radar guy that his ranking rose quite a bit over like the last month of the recruiting cycle. Ended up as like a high 3-star. So, I'm optimistic about what he'll do in his years with the Pack. And, it's just all about seeing what happens. And if they don't feel great about it, I bet we could see Sean Brown play linebacker next year. And I think, in my opinion, and this is not in any way reflective of, what the staff views it, I think it'd be great to keep him at safety if they feel like they have a good enough linebacker room to do so, just because I think he can be one of the best, like, in the box safeties in the country by the time his Wolfpack career is over. I think he is another Tanner Ingle type of guy who can have that sort of impact stopping the run. I thought he got a lot better against the pass as the season went on too. So I really like Sean Brown as a player. Whether he's at safety or linebacker, I think he'll have a really, really good year. All right. Noah, before we get out of here, let's talk a little bit of Wolfpack baseball. Opening day is Friday against VCU. Noah, your alma mater. So it'll be a former coaching program of Elliott Avent as well. So some history there. You've been around the program a little bit in the run up to this season. Give us a little breakdown. Where should Wolfpack fans' expectations be heading into the 2024 baseball season?
Should be pretty high, right? NC State's got the pieces to make something happen this year. They've got hitting, they've got pitching depth. It did take a little bit of a hit, with one injury in the preseason, but other than that, they've got enough depth to kind of make it work. And I think that'd be good. They're ranked as high as 13 in the different polls. College baseball is weird where there's like 5 to 6 different polls that come out every week. But they're anywhere from 13 to 22. Most of them have them in the teens. We'll just use whatever one's the highest each week, and we'll go from there. So they're 13th in the country, heading into the season. So high expectations, obviously. Trying to get back to the regional. They made it last year, just didn't get out of the Columbia Regional. So we'll see. I think the expectation can be to host a regional. I think that they're capable of doing that this year. We'll see. They start off with VCU. Good opponent, not an elite, top 15 team in the country, but also not a pushover team either. So this will be a fun weekend to get it started off. And Elliott Avent has his degree from VCU, and he can get his 1,000th career win at NC State against them. So that would be kind of cool too. So a little bit of backstory on that. So we'll see what happens. But Wolfpack looks pretty good.
Awesome. All right, folks. That's all from us today. Thank you for watching and listening to the show. We really appreciate it. And there's just a lot going on with Wolfpack Athletics. We didn't even talk about wrestling's got a top 10 matchup this week as well. So it's going to be a busy week for Wolfpack Sports. We'll be back next week to talk about it, recap it, and talk about the major storylines here. But you've kind of gotten through the dead period of the winter. We start to ramp up here when we get to the end of February and into March. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have full coverage of it over on the wolfpacker.com. So go check it out. Only $1 to join for your first month. All right. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next week.